So hello and welcome, and thank you for taking the time to hear about Dell Technologies. My name is James Scott, the Field CTO for Dell Technologies Canada, and I'd like to take the time today to run through some of the focus from us on reducing cloud complexity, driving consistency in what is a very inconsistent world, and ending with a demo to show you at least part of how this is actually made possible, and to give you the option to go away and do some of this as well through our online courses and labs. So most organizations' environments today include many cloud environments that might impact your application and developer experiences. Originally, I think there was this expectation that cloud was going to be easy. You'd have a private cloud, you'd have a public cloud, hopefully they talk together, and everything would be great. But if I look at the customers I talk to across Canada, if we look at all the market research information, in fact, if I look at the IDC results, over 90% of customers are already deploying workloads across 2 or more clouds. So what this has meant is that very quickly we have this proliferation of management consoles and siloed cloud assets. And it can be due to many reasons. Maybe you've invested in some unique capabilities offered with each vendor. Maybe you've inherited some cloud environments through mergers and acquisitions. Maybe there's been some shadow IT that's kind of gone away and bypassed the central IT process to build out an environment for test, maybe eventually for production. Or maybe it's been a calculated move because you want to provide some risk mitigation. You want to eliminate a reliance on any one single vendor. So this is a recurring theme I'm seeing with a lot of our customers. But what this means is that operating in lots of different clouds creates a lot of complexity. It requires onboarding of a lot of disparate management and operational tools, and it creates operational silos. Each cloud has a different management console, a different set of processes, a different way of doing things. And this can lead to more time being spent simply managing the infrastructure rather than using it. And simply getting out to these clouds can be time consuming, requiring replatforming of a lot of workloads. It's not a simple task. And this can create delays in innovation and delays to other areas of the business, and maybe just delays to risk mitigation that you want to introduce. It also requires some extensive training and adds a lot of complexity across every aspect of purchasing and running this cloud infrastructure. The skills that most organizations have built up over the last decade plus, from kind of in-house tools and processes and onboarding, don't necessarily lend themselves well to this public cloud adoption. And the cloud itself is pretty open by design, operating many clouds, not relying on maybe some of the existing security best practices and controls that organizations have had from their on-premises infrastructure. And you couple this with the limited visibility and control over the infrastructure. This leads a lot of organizations maybe more vulnerable to threats. It's not to say that cloud vendors are not actually doing great work to secure their infrastructure, but organizations are struggling with their portion of that shared responsibility model. And although the public cloud offers a lot of great security tools, encryption at rest, encryption in place, identity access management, 2-factor authentication, you name it, there typically a security option or security capability being offered. The challenge, though, is in how that gets configured correctly and how that security configuration is monitored over time for any drift in the configuration. So what I'm seeing really is a requirement across this multi-hybrid cloud world for the support of 2 very different types of workloads. So on the left-hand side here, we have kind of the traditional monolithic tiered architecture, which most of our kind of legacy applications are being built on, where I have this back-end system, back-end database and storage. I have some middleware, I have some front-end interface to operate that application. but it is one big stack. And if I need this application to perform better, I throw more resources at this instance. I give this instance more memory, more compute, more storage. And that's very different from the right-hand side here, from this world of microservices and containers and 12-factor applications, where the application is broken down into smaller component parts. Each of those component parts being having the ability to rapidly change. I have the ability to update my application easier. The application itself is more kind of cloud friendly. It's designed more to deal with changes in the underlying infrastructure than a traditional application would be. But it's a very different way of building an application, and it has a very different set of requirements and constraints on the underlying infrastructure. And a lot of customers today are looking at these two worlds and saying, okay, I need a platform that can update and innovate and allow me to continue to run those traditional applications. They're not going anywhere. They're core to my business. But I also need a platform that can focus on modern applications and containers and containerization. So across Dell Technologies, it's really important that we provide a platform that deals with both of these, where those traditional applications, that ability to manage and run kind of the infrastructure, is built upon through what's called VMware Cloud Foundation. So providing you a way to automate and provision a cloud operating model to build out the infrastructure and the hypervisor layer and the software and the tools on top of it in an easy to use, easy to update, a continuous process, as well as supporting that right-hand side. And that's where things like VMware's Tanzu portfolio of solutions help organizations to innovate and deal with containers and container orchestration far easier, and using tools that most organizations are already familiar with. So the idea at Dell Technologies when it comes to this multi-hybrid cloud world is to take all of that and run it on top of a platform that most of our customers are very familiar with. So run it on top of vSphere, allow and provide options for that vSphere environment to be scaled down as small as we can so it can run at remote locations, run at the edge. Make sure it's applicable to large-scale data centers. Make sure it can be expanded upon. So how do we add in additional storage and servers and capabilities? And obviously that's key at Dell Technologies. How do we run and expand that out to the public cloud as well? And I think what's really unique here is the ability through all the partnerships we have, and you'll see an example of part of this in a minute through the demonstration, but actually run that VMware platform out on the AWSs, the Azures, the GCPs of the world in a consistent way. So I can take my existing platform, my existing tools, my existing procedures and operations, and seamlessly run out into the public cloud. So that hopefully over time, I can use some of these public clouds to augment or modify or replace some of my legacy traditional applications. But now I have a way of doing it where I have a large pipe, a low latency, direct connection into those public clouds to build out a true multi-cloud platform in a very easy to consume, very easy to operate manner. So what I want to do is focus in on a part of that. Obviously, given the time today, I want to kind of focus in on one key aspect of this through technology actually on the VMware side called HCX. So I want to try and show the workload portability aspect of this conversation. So there's a lot we could show here, but what I like about HCX is I think is relevant to a lot of different customers and covers a multitude of different use cases, some of which you'll see during the demonstration. I think the vast majority of customers can deploy and use this type of technology and this type of capability with very minimal change to their current systems. And quite frankly, it's very impressive. And the fact that you can go in, so through the two links you can see on the screen, the first one is for VMware's hands-on labs, which I'm going to use today as part of this demonstration. And the other one kind of expands some of those options and capabilities to the wider Dell Technologies family. But what HCX gives you is the ability to modernize your application infrastructure, as I said, with very minimal operational overhead. It's a simple service-driven installation, and you'll see this as we go through it. There are no additional appliances to manage. It is a service-driven model with very simple kind of tick boxes and click button interface. And also, and we'll do this as well as part of the demo, it allows you to have IP addressing schemes between the source and destination that can overlap. So there's no need to re-IP or go through any complex NATing, which again can add complexity and lead to downtime as part of the migration. So I invite everyone watching this today, go away. You can actually do everything I'm going to do yourself in a real lab, so in a real environment, not just a click-through interface. And that's another reason why I picked this specific demonstration. So let's go ahead and firstly we'll log into the Vsphere client. So everything I'm going to do today is going to be done through this console interface. So there's no need to jump around between different consoles and different interfaces. So when we log in, you'll immediately see on the left-hand side, just through kind of the linked mode, we have two different sites set up, but they are separate sites right now. We have site A and site B. So what we're going to do is we're going to use HCX to connect them up and then move an application around. So I can come into the HCX dashboard through the vSphere, and you can see right now, other than the basic setup of things on both sites, none of the HCX process has been done yet. None of this cross-cloud capability has been set up. So we're going to go into the interconnect, and you can see right now it only lists my on-premises data center, which in this demonstration is actually running in Boston, and I have no site pairs. I have nothing connected to this data center. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to a remote location. So I'm going to connect over to that other data center, to the HCX platform that's already been installed in much the same way here to connect both the two sites. So I'm going to log into the HCX platform. And once we've done this, once we've logged in and once we've set up some of this process, what we'll do in the demo is we'll actually migrate a VM between two different sites across east to west. So we're not doing a small kind of metro migration. We're doing a complete migration from one end of the country to the other. So as you can see, I've got this Boston data center and then this VMware cloud that's actually running in Palo Alto. So we're doing east to west migration. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create the service mesh. So what services are going to be available through HCX to help us with some of the connectivity and some of the workload portability and migration. So it's just a case of selecting the compute profile that I want on both sites. I'm going to click continue. You see a graphical representation, and then these are the services that are going to be made available. So in this lab, we have everything already pre-installed, apart from the SD-WAN optimization side of things, which again is another option. So we'll call this tour demo 1, and we'll go ahead and create this service mesh between the two sites. So this is kind of pre-recorded, and I'm gonna speed up some parts of this. I'm not going to skip over any of the steps though. And again, you have access to this lab environment through the VMware hands-on lab experience. In real life, this would maybe take a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, depending on what else is going on the platform. But what you'll see here is it's going away and deploying a whole bunch of different parts of the infrastructure on both sites to provide all the different services through that service mesh. So it's going to go away and set that up, as I said, on both sites. And once that's done, we'll be able to go back into the HCX dashboard and see that that interconnect has been done. So you can see here, service mesh has been completed. If I go back to site pairs, again, you can still see those two locations. But let's go back to dashboard and actually see a visual representation of that. So we can see here, we have this connection now from my on-premises data center that's running, as I said, in Boston, all the way out to the West Coast to a VMware cloud environment that's running, in this case, in Palo Alto. So this would be exactly the same process if you were doing, for example, the VMware cloud in AWS. This is exactly what you would see. So I can go ahead and what I'm going to do here is actually extend the network. So through the HCX network extension, this allows me to do a bit more of a seamless migration through a cross-cloud vMotion. Definitely not required, depending on what you're trying to get out of the platform and what you're actually trying to achieve. Again, that was it. I just gave it a subnet, and it's going to go and create that that network extension for me. So again, I'm going to speed this up. This would actually take a few minutes, but in the interest of time, let's speed this up. So that's done. Let's go back to the dashboard, and it'll show me that I now have, hopefully, that network extension set up. So what I can do now is we can actually move a VM. So that's the full process of setting up and configuring the HCX platform. So let's grab the IP address of one of those VMs. So what I want to do is I want to ping that VM to show that we never lose connectivity, even during this long distance migration to another platform. So we'll kick that off. We'll leave that running in the background. And then again, without jumping to a different interface, we're going to move that VM, doing what's known as a cross-cloud vMotion, from East Coast to West. So we'll come back into the dashboard. We'll choose migration. And then we'll select to migrate a virtual machine. So again, in this fairly small lab environment, I have access to this VM that we can move. All I need to do is choose some stuff about the destination. So where is it going to go? You know, what's the folder? In this case, I'm actually going to select a specific host that I want to migrate it to. What's the storage platform? What's the destination storage going to look like? What's the format going to be? What's the networking? You can see at the bottom there. And also on the right-hand side, you can see I at the moment it says bulk migration. So what I can do is I can do a bulk migration of lots of different VMs. This is really useful if I have a number of VMs that make up a running application. So I can't just move one at a time due to other services that are being accessed or latency requirements. But in this case, I'm just going to move one VM. So I'm going to do a direct vMotion. It'll validate the VM's okay, and I can click finish. It's going to go in there and validate this actually is a VM that I can perform this vMotion on. So let's bring that window back up. As you can see, right now I'm getting ping times in the kind of 1 to 10 on average milliseconds. So again, I'm going to speed this up. We're not going to cut away from that ping window though once that migration has actually started. So right now it's queued. So in reality, this took about 5 to 10 minutes. So you can see now it's initiating that virtual machine relocation. So let's leave that ping window up. Again, we'll speed this up and it'll actually start moving that VM. So what will happen, and you'll see it briefly, I'll try and highlight it with the mouse there. We had a slight increase in, or more than slight, maybe increase in that ping time, but we never lost a ping. And it's already started that process. So what it's doing, just like a normal vMotion, is it's replicating that VM, its storage, the memory, everything is being replicated across to the other location. Once that's happened, once we've validated that everything has been copied over okay, and we can do the last final pieces of the synchronization process, the VM will be removed and shut down from its original location. What you'll actually see when you run through this, if you go through this in the lab environment and in a live environment, is there are staging components being set up in that destination. So it's kind of pre-staging everything and validating the whole process the whole time, so that we're able to roll back or fail back if we need to, if there's a problem with that connection. So you can see the VM has completed the migration. We're still getting good ping times based on where the vCenter, the vSphere console is. And what I can do through the dashboard is validate that. So I can see history of what's happened. So I can see on here, it's showing me that I've done that VM migration. There are other things in this dashboard as well that we won't go through all the details just in the interests of time. But it'll show you anything that you need to immediately be concerned about. It'll also show you resources. So you can see here, I have a number of resources available in that cloud location. It's a pretty small environment, but the resources have shifted over from my on-premise to the public cloud, and I can validate that. I can go away and look at the VMs in the platform, and I can see that VM instance has indeed changed from running in site A to running in site B. So obviously, in the interest of time, that's pretty much all we can show during the demonstration today. There's obviously a lot more in the platform in general as a Dell Technologies Cloud, but specifically in HCX, there are other things in here. For example, disaster recovery. Obviously, there are other tools available from Dell Technologies to assist with that DR process, but certainly this is one thing that allows a fairly simple way to fail over a VM between multiple sites. So thank you very much for the time today. I hope this was useful, and I hope we've been able to answer a few questions given the time we have today. So thank you very much, and have a good day.